Step one, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step two, get some good, some food in you. Step three, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step four, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Good morning, and welcome to Good Morning Crypto, where we turn your early hours in the morning into your edge and financial freedom. Today, I've got a few headlines. One's about Bitcoin and some possibilities of retracement going into 2025. And I've got another headline about the Ethereum ETFs and the inflows that they saw in December. So let's dive on in and get you prepped for some success today. I've got the stock heat map pulled up. The stock market is open again today. So we are seeing some movement on the TradFi side of things. Apple is sitting down 0.71% from its December close. It is sitting up just a little bit in the pre-market right now, up 0.03%. We do have Nvidia sitting down at 2.33%. And the pre-market, it is sitting up quite nicely, up 1.7% right now. We've got Berkshire Hathaway, which was sitting kind of neutral from its close in December, down up 0.25%, and in the pre-market, continuing on those gains, up 0.78%. We do have Amazon, which was sitting down just a bit like the rest of the big seven, down 0.86%. In the pre-market, it is doing a lot like Nvidia, and it is up 1.53%. We do have Eli Lilly sitting down at 0.24% from its close, and in the pre-market also sitting up 0.78% right now. We've got ExxonMobil sitting up 1.71 from its close, and in the pre-market continuing on some of the gains, up 0.7% right now. Tesla was sitting down kind of big from its close, down 3.25%. In the pre-market is sitting up a 1.5% right now. We've got Microsoft sitting down 0.78% from its close. In the pre-market, sitting up as well, up 1.51%. Google is the same as the rest of that big seven, was sitting down on its close, down 1.17%. In the pre-market, sitting up 0.92%. We've got Meta in the same position, was sitting down 0.97%. And the pre-market doing the same, making some gains, up 1.19%. For the crypto side of things, we are having a pretty green morning. Bitcoin is sitting up 2.28%. We've got Ethereum up 3.38%. XRP making some gains as well, up 3.12%. We've got BNB sitting up 0.82%. Solana making some big gains this morning, up 7.47%. We've got Cardano also making some nice big gains this morning, up 5.92%. And Dogecoin as well, sitting up quite nicely, up 5.27%. We've got Tron sitting up 2.65%, Avalanche up big, 7.37%, Link is sitting up 4.57%, we've got TON sitting up 2.93%, and Shiba Inu sitting up 5.17%. Let's hop over to the economic calendar real quick. We do have some initial jobless claims coming out this morning at 8:30 Eastern Time. That will be kind of the bigger market mover for today. A little bit later, we do have S&P Global Manufacturing PMI, which will be the next heavy market mover coming out at 9:45 Eastern Time. And other than that, there's not really any heavy data for today. A lot of these moves will be preparation for tomorrow's data drop, and that is coming out. We do have the ISM manufacturing PMI that will be coming out at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So any moves we see later in the day will most likely be in preparation for that ISM manufacturing PMI. And as we're seeing this market go green, we might see, even if we do get a little bit of negative data from your initial jobless claims, that be negated as the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI will be coming out shortly after that. So just something to keep your eye on for the morning. We do have the fear and greed sitting on 1 point up for the stock side of things, still sitting in fear, which is definitely to be expected, especially when the market has been retracing pretty hard on that TradFi side of things. I say pretty hard, but it's like 5 to 10% on some things, depending on what you're looking at. Tesla got hit a little harder, and it is making some nice rebounds so far. Could see that move up just a little bit if we do have a green day, but I am still looking for extreme fear to be hit on the stock side of things. For crypto, we are up 4 points as we've got this move up on Bitcoin, and the rest of the market, we're back to 70, and some more heavier greed is looking to potentially head our way as we get some more pumps on the crypto side of things. We do have the liquidation heat map with a lot of the liquidity that is being taken out on the top side of things. This is the 1 week chart right here. We took out our giant hot spot that was ranging all the way from about 96,000 all the way up to almost 97,000. We've still got that light bit of liquidity that's sitting on the top side of that. You do have a little bit more sitting all the way up here at 97,662. For the bottom side of things, we're looking kind of light for liquidity. If you zoom it on in just a bit to that 24-hour, you can kind of see most of the liquidity now is sitting on the bottom side of things. It is sitting right down here at the 94,276 and going all the way down to 93,944. There is another little light hot spot sitting at about 93,445. So most of the liquidity now, as we've taken out the top side liquidity, is on the bottom side of things. If you zoom it on out to that monthly, you can kind of see here it's mostly hot on the bottom side of things, and there's no real pressure to drag the market in either way liquidity wise for the longer term time frame. So we're just going to need to see what key levels are really going to get bought up here, especially since we might see a little bit of market volatility coming into the new year. Let's pull that trading view back up and say good morning to the chat. I've got Al Jr. in here saying good morning, happy 2025 to everyone, LFG. Good morning, Al Jr. I see Alexandra G in the chat here this morning as well. Good morning, Alexandra G. Hope you're having a great 2025 so far. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart and zoom it on out to that daily view. As you can kind of see here, your outflows are starting to tick back up here. Definitely bodes a little bit for some downside pressure, which I will talk about more as we dive into that news article I had pulled up. But it does look like we could potentially be seeing some bottoming. I did want to see this golden pocket turned into some support. And if you zoom it on in a little bit to some lower term time frames, it looks like that's what we've potentially done. We could definitely still retest that level and see if that holds strong. So Got your MACD curving to the upside as well as the prime oscillator, just waiting on that money flow to kind of switch back over. You did get your 1 hour, which went very green last night when I was live on Markets After Dark. That's right around when that pump started happening. So if you didn't check out that Markets After Dark episode, definitely worth the watch. Me and Lunar Beaches had a lot of fun on there. So if you have the time today, go ahead and give that one a watch and hit the thumbs up button for it. We did end up bouncing right here, making a little rejection on local term time frame, the shorter term time frames on this 50% fib line. As you can kind of see here, we got the wick down off of it on this 4 hour and are starting to print a red candle, which definitely leads me to think that on the slight more macro side of things, there might be a little more downside potential. You aren't getting any reversal signals flashing here on your prime oscillator, no overbought signals here yet, so just waiting for some of those to come on in, but you are getting that curvature on your prime oscillator right here and just waiting for some curvature on the MACD. Your money flow is still kind of red here on the 4 hour as well, so going to need to see that switch. If we do end up coming above this 50% line, that 96,800 range, we would need to turn that into some support. If we're unable to maintain that as some support, I would look at us dropping back down to some of these lower levels here at about 95,600. Let's zoom it on in just a little bit more. Take a look at that hourly chart. As you can kind of see here, that hourly has already got the curvature that I'm waiting to kind of see on the 4 hour. You do have money flow, which is switching from heavy green to some light green here, as well as two reversal signals have shown since we've been moving to the upside. You did have your prime oscillator, which just ticked to red as it's getting that curvature to the downside. So maybe that 50% fib line is that local rejection point for right now as we try to refine some footing and introduce more buying pressure into Bitcoin for now. Oh, I see Josh is board in here. Good morning, Josh. I hope you're having a great day. That's my buddy. He did some of the background work on the show, so hope you're having a great 2025 so far. Let's zoom it on in to that 15-minute mark, kind of see how the morning might go for things. You are seeing green inflows for Bitcoin and just slowing that down just a bit. Definitely looking for a little bit of some confirmation here that this 50% fib line is not going to be a rejection point on your shorter term time frames. Your MACD is getting curvature as well right off of that indicator line on the top side of things. So if we can continue to see green money flows on your 15-minute, which bleed over to that 1 hour, then that 50% fib line could potentially be broken. There is plenty of room here to test some prices. There's a fair value gap sitting that we made on the downside of things. As you can kind of see, we tested the midline of it as we got that last little push back up above that 50% line back here Christmas Eve. That would have been December 24th here. We got that rejection off of the midline before we continued the downtrend. So closing that fair value gap would be a potential move to also see before we continue that downside. Top side of which is going to be right there at 97,854. So if we end up closing that, could just see that drag back down and your liquidity start to flow to the red just a bit. There's plenty of ranges here to buy up Bitcoin if you believe that in 2025 we're still going to be extremely bullish, which I don't know. I definitely have that top side potential where I think Bitcoin goes to some nice crazy levels. If I pull up a run to run fib extension and kind of give what I'm looking at there, let's hide the fib retracement and get a clearer view on things. Let's zoom it on out to that weekly, kind of talk about some of the levels that I want to see for the top side of things coming in. I see Josh's board says 150K by July, and I've got something a little bit, around that range. Let's see. We've got username saying the smooth voice of BC in the morning. Well, that's what I'm here for. No one wants to get hit with that harsh, loud crypto voice first thing in the morning. They want that buttery smooth voice to wake them up. So, got username saying Alexandra G. Good morning. Hopefully you got that coffee brewing. As we can kind of see here, here's the fib extension. Let's hide some of the levels that I was looking at for a potential bounce so that we can get a clearer view of where we're sitting here in this range. We are sitting right below the 1618 on an extension with plenty of room to kind of run here. You did have your liquidity, which just went to that light red point on the weekly, but definitely still crazy potential to kind of move things as we go into the new year before we kind of see some of the new policy changes kind of be a bit of a barrier as we go into Q1. I do think we do see some resistance on some of the prices here on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a lot of your TradFi market as we do see tariffs come into play, which might tick up some inflation pressures, and especially as we're going to see the Japanese carry trade potentially be unwound as Japan is looking to hike rates, and we are at an 88% chance of no rate cuts to negate that rate hike. So I am looking at the 1618 to kind of be moved up towards as we go into the beginning of 2025, which is going to be that 121,000 range, where I think we start seeing a bit more of some sideways movement as people kind of gauge where the market is lying, especially as we are going to be seeing the new policies that I've talked about over and over on the show. I do want to see us make that move as we go into Q2 of that $187,000 mark, which is kind of in line with what you talked about there, Josh, 150K by July. I do think we try to attack this 2618 here. I think above that 2618 range is where you start seeing more of that market volatility that we see plenty of times as we make that move to the upside. As you can kind of see here, when we started getting to that point on our last run, let's pull that up and hide that there. As you can see here, as we broke above that 2618 last run, we got a lot of sideways resistance. Moved sideways for quite a while there before we really got our retracement and hit a nice little bounce here back at the 1618 before we faltered again at the 3.382 fib on the extension. That's where we saw our local resistance before we moved down to our bear market on things. This is why I still see some crazy upside potential for Bitcoin on our current run. Plenty of room to run, especially considering that we've got more inflows than ever coming into Bitcoin. They just haven't really been affecting the price as hard because a lot of that is OTC right now. So some of those upside targets I had for that next one, I think we don't get up to the 3618, but I do think we hit in between that range, hit maybe that 220 kind of range by the end of the market. So definitely looking for some top side of things and some resistance along the way when we get to these key levels like we've seen in Bitcoin over and over again. Let's hop into that news article real quick. Take a quick dive into that before we hop into our other one. I might have to do a little bit of a short show here. Got Bitcoin prices rises don't rule out a crypto pullback in 2025. Bitcoin bulls are banking on further gains after the cryptocurrency climbed over 100% in 2024. Recent history suggests they might be disappointed. The large cap token was up 1.9% to 96,411 early Thursday, trading about 12% below its previous record high of just over 108,000. That also drove up shares in MicroStrategies, the business software company that's become a Bitcoin proxy since it started piling into the token in 2020. The stock was up 6% ahead of the opening bell. The launch of several spot exchange traded funds and the expectation that President-elect Donald Trump will slash digital asset regulation both helped power Bitcoin to new heights in 2024. It rose about 120%, logging in its second straight year of triple-digit returns. The consensus among crypto investors seems to be that those factors will carry on driving up prices in 2025. Alex Thorne, head of research at crypto trading firm Galaxy Digital, expects the token to top 150,000 within 6 months and test or best the 185,000 level by the end of the year. And that's kind of more that closer to that 2618 that I had talked about, and he has a little less bullish sentiment than I do on things. But investors ought to be cautious. For any other asset, back-to-back years of gains of more than 100% wouldn't feel sustainable. And recent history shows just how dramatic any sell-off could be. Bitcoin rose about 700% to over 64,000 between January 2020 and November 2021, then plunged below 17,000 in a brutal sell-off sparked by sky-high inflation and rising interest rates. While crypto-friendly president can't be a bad thing for Bitcoin, macroeconomic factors could test the digital asset market. Inflation is still running above the Federal Reserve's 2% target, and Chair Jerome Powell signaled to the market last month that the central bank might not cut interest rates much this year. When interest rates are higher, cryptocurrencies have tended to fall because investors have less spare cash to plow into riskier assets, so don't rule out 2025 being a year of disappointment. I still think that we might get some bullish movements even with the sentiment, as you've been seeing. As you've been seeing during a lot of these dips, we've seen MicroStrategies buying up Bitcoin. You've had the Bitcoin ETFs buying up massive amounts of Bitcoin. They've also been buying up massive amounts of Ethereum during these more lull periods where you get a lot of these fuddy articles where they're talking about, oh, well, you might not see the amazing prices that you expect to see. And a lot of this will depend on the economy. We've got a few chats in here. Let's see. We've got Jay Violet. Good morning, Jay Violet. I hope you're having a great New Year's so far. Let's see. Josh is saying, I'm happy to see that people aren't overreacting anymore due to the government shutdown. It's a refreshing change of pace. And, we talked about that. I didn't talk about that. Piper talked about that on his morning market report, and how government shutdowns are normally good for your stock market. The government's not in there to cause problems and is more of a short-term bullish sentiment. Let's see. We've got Mark Dutch in here saying afternoon from the Netherlands. All set in here saying good morning, BCM fam, and saying hello to a few of the people in chat. We do have Josh is bored asking, what are your thoughts on Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway reaching 325 billion in liquidity? Is he preparing for a bold move or showing cautious patience in an overvalued market? Well, this is something he's also talked about is it's easy to make moves when you have small amounts of money, and it's extremely hard to make the right move when you're dealing with massive amounts of money because you either have to break that all down, kind of redistribute in smaller amounts of things. So it's kind of harder to make the proper sentiment because say if you do take about $100 billion and you want to drop it into a stock, which is what they most likely do, is take a larger amount of capital and try to drop it into one of these stocks. When people hear that, you're going to see some of these people in the market try to take some of that money. They're going to be like, "Oh, well, thanks for buying my asset. I guess now is a great time to sell." And it gets harder and harder and harder to kind of battle some of the market sentiment, especially when you see things like that 2021 change where we got the whole GME stock, where there's a whole group of traders on the internet that their whole goal is just to mess up the big guy. And that's made it even harder for these large capital funds to really put their money in the safest place for some gains on their money. So I don't think there's too much a worry in it. I think having dry powder, especially when you're talking about billions of dollars, when your market cap is about double that, having half dry powder while you wait and see on some of the things is also as good of a position as buying things up if you think they might go a little bit lower and we might see a little bit of some struggle because I know Elon said it, things might get a little worse before they get better. And that's something you see a lot in markets, and that's something you see a lot with new policy changes that have long term potential. Things normally get a little bit worse. He sold off a bunch of Apple quite last year. And he's continued to sell off a lot of these projects, and that's where it's like when you've been holding Apple since about 2010, there's never a bad time to sell. And you know the the right move is never the for sure right move until you see where the market lies later on. And if you're in profit, taking that profit is never a bad move. So username asking, did you ever read the VC article I didn't catch yesterday morning's show? Yes, I did read that VC article. Probably just going to have to go back and watch that one. I talked a lot about where VC money has been raising capital and the projects that they are looking to invest in come 2025. They're talking about 2 billion new dollars coming in from the VCs, and they're looking at more of those Bitcoin layer 2 DeFis. You have a few DEX exchanges that they're kind of looking at. I think Athena was one of those as well. So a lot of potential for 2025. That was a short show username. So a 30-minute show shouldn't be too hard to find that VC article for you. Got username saying you're still in the future to McFly. Also, BA, everything there seems like it wants to kill you. Flying at 3-foot tall bats. I'm not sure what that one's about, but oh, Western Australia. Okay then. Well, yeah, got all the wild animals there, all the snakes too. Kangaroos are would be more my fear if I go to Australia. I know I can't box a kangaroo, so that worries me. We've got the second news article, which was the title for my show today, which was a spot at Ether ETFs logged record monthly inflows exceeding $2 billion in December. And as you saw these $2 billion worth of inflows, you didn't really see Ethereum's price go too crazy to the upside. And that's bodes a lot on the fact that a lot of this is OTC buying, and OTC doesn't directly affect price. It is a handshake agreement and a peer-to-peer exchange that has nothing to do with the actual buying on the exchange. So what it does affect is the liquidity on these exchanges and these certain assets, which also will bode later on the explosiveness of the move to the upside. Because as you go to buy these assets and they have less of these assets, that does create a premium on the price, which makes it, you know, basic supply and demand there. If it's a little bit harder to buy this asset because it got bought up by a lot of the OTC buying, then guess what? They don't pay the premium, you pay the premium, and that's also driving up the price. It's a later effect from the OTC buying, but it does show market sentiment. These players are extremely bullish, and they've continued to buy, and they will continue to buy. I do think we do see that sell-off happen for a lot of them coming in to the crypto winter as we top out, but I do think we do see a bunch of them hold, because if you have a 10-year outlook, you're paying less taxes on some of these gains in the current market. It would take time for some of Trump's wants for decreasing the taxes on these things. So plenty of bullish sentiment from the ETFs that aren't directly affecting the price right now. Spot Ethereum exchange traded funds in the US set a new record monthly net inflows in December. The 9 Ether ETFs had over 2.8 billion in net inflows last month, according to data by Soso Value. This is nearly double the amount of the November net inflows of just over 1 billion. BlackRock's ETH fund alone amassed 1.4 billion in net inflows in December, during which it saw 13 straight days of positive inflows into the fund. Fidelity's ETH followed with 752 million worth of inflows. On the other hand, Grayscale's ETHE reported a net outflows of 274 million. The spot ETH ETFs saw huge amounts of inflows recently as the new year brings in new funds, the expiration of last year's positions, and a change of market expectations, says Nick Ruck, director of LVRG Research. Ruck added that December also renewed interest in DeFi and AI applications within the Ethereum ecosystem. The net inflows brought in a total cumulative net inflow of over 2.6 billion and its total net assets to 12.12 billion, more than 3% of the entire market capitalization of Ether. December's record high net inflows coincided with the cryptocurrency's mid-month rally above 4,000 before falling back down to around 3,500 later in the month. Ether is trading at 3,409 at time of writing, rising 2.23% in the past 24 hours, according to blockchain Ethereum price page. Meanwhile, spot Bitcoin ETFs saw net inflows of over 4.5 billion in December, lower than the November's all-time high monthly net inflows of 6.4 billion. Bitcoin's ETFs ended the year with a cumulative net inflow of 35.24 billion and total net assets of 105.4 billion. This accounts for roughly 5.7% of the entire Bitcoin market cap. So as you can see here, they're not scared to buy, and they continue to buy, and this bodes well for market sentiment over the long term. even though it's not affecting the price to the upside on things. I did have a few more questions in chat. Jay Violet saying kangaroos are terrifying. Yeah, I'm scared of anything I can't beat up. So kangaroos are definitely on that list for me. Josh's board saying, do you think MicroStrategies will become a Bitcoin monopoly? Currently, they own about 2.6% of all Bitcoin and are only 2 years in. Could this lead to market manipulation? We already have market manipulation. I don't think 2.6% is anything to be too concerned about, especially since it's going to be harder and harder for them to really grab up a bunch of the market share. You do have a lot of the Bitcoin being held by BNB and other exchanges, so that's going to be the big battle for them. These companies are buying from the miners and then they sell it. You will see, if more and more people want to invest in MicroStrategies, them continue to increase their market share. But getting to anything that is overly concerning for Bitcoin, considering that the whole market on things is like the 51% attack is what you really need to worry about for a monopoly on Bitcoin. They're nowhere close to that, and they never will be anywhere close to that unless you have a lot of people flooding out of Bitcoin. So definitely something to keep in mind. It's going to be hard to have a monopoly on Bitcoin, and the more worry is going to be things like these mining pools having more of a market share where they own 51% of the hash rate there. That does bode a little concerning to me on the potential on what they can do to the actual blockchain. Uh, let's see. I see Lunar Beaches Crypto in here. Good morning, sir. I hope you got a great night's sleep. I know we were up late last night, so I'm dragging butt just a little bit this morning. I see Buck in here this morning. Good morning, good morning. Hunting trip to Australia is on my bucket list. That does sound like a fun one. I just I might have to put that on my bucket list, but I would more so like to take a hunting trip to Africa, where some of the big game is. They do have a bunch of land reserves there where you pay out the teeth to hunt something like an elephant, and then they turn around and they take all of that money and they use it for the preservation of elephants or for lions or things like that. And that's always interested me. You can have fun, do something a little taboo, and help the whole environment. So let's see. Username saying, Buck, caution, when in Australia hunting kangaroos, you'll have to fend off a giant man-eating bats and predator. Oh, right there. Josh is bored saying, I agree. MicroStrategy's influence is financial, not monopolistic. Could their growing holdings still directly affect prices or sentiment? The prices, yes. It raises the floor on things, especially since they've said that they will never sell the Bitcoin. So it raises the floor, especially with the ETFs as well, raising the floor on what kind of bottoms we will see coming into the bear market. And they do have a massive financial influence, and I think that's a less concerning than the direct influence on the blockchain. Russia banning mining was insane. Power grid issues, I heard. Yeah, 'cause you see some of the same things in America. So like places like California are anti-mining, but they also have terrible power grids. Lunar Beach is saying, took profit on my BTC long. Congratulations there, sir. I think you made the right move there. I think we do get a bit of some bouncing to the upside to a fair value gap I had talked about, but I do think the overall trend is going to be a slight continuation to the downside of things. I don't know if anyone has any assets that they like me to take a quick look at, but I did want to pull up the Dixie because I've been talking about it a lot. And going into 2025, some of the things that I would like to see for the Dixie, especially if we are going to see some of these inflation pressures tick up with new policies, you are going to need a strong dollar to go along with these things. We got our bounce here at right above this local resistance line that we had struggled to get above for 2 years. We are now coming up on that platinum, the 236 here on our retracement, which, we haven't been at that range since back here. I am looking at us to potentially break this 109 and 36 cents. We will need to turn this 236 here into some support. Definitely a plausible thing here. If you're looking at the dollar on the daily, you do see some red on it. You are seeing some of your longer term bonds being bought up and the short term having a bit of a sell off. So just waiting for some of those shorter term bonds to have the same kind of market value in our current time frame. That's kind of interesting that it's coming up right against some local resistance here when you start seeing that sell off on some of your short term bonds. So kind of bodes that potential for a little bit of rejection here in this range. I do think we do turn that into some support as we are right on that range there. The 108.76, which is a new high for the Dixie over the past 2 years, and we are looking to go into 2025 extremely strong. I do think we see some resistance there at that 109.36 30, about 30-cent range before we kind of really make a move in either direction. I think we might see a quick sideways move in this range before we really make that move to the upside. Let's see. Buck says that's not a knife. I love that movie. I love that movie. We do have a Soul requested, so I can take a quick look at that. On the California thing, saying, hey, California all electric vehicles by 2030. Yeah, I think that one changes. Username asking, is California still a state? I hope not. I hope for not much longer. I'm kidding on that. I love all my California people, but I think they've got some fixing to do, and I think that's why they've seen such a flood of people out of California and have been struggling just a little bit. They're losing a lot of money, which is why they had to turn around and change some of the laws, where it was like, hey, even if you leave California, you still got to pay us taxes for like the next 10 years, which kind of seems like a little bit of a worrisome thing to me. In case anyone was wondering, BC has a neck. Yes, I do. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. I've been growing out the beard though. Let's take a quick look at Soul before I kind of wind down the show. I didn't see any other requests. I really have to go to the bathroom right now, so I'm gonna end the show just a bit early. I was not expecting all of that coffee to kick my butt, so let's hide our fib extension here that I've had drawn out and take a look at the fib retracement. A lot of those levels are lining up with each other here. So you've got your 382 in line with the top of this fair value gap that I've wanted to see closed, and it looks like is going to be left open for now. Yeah, the bottom side of which was coming down here towards our support line, and the top side has been left quite open for attack. So the 382 is going to be that 211 point, and I think we do see a bit of faltering on a shorter term time frame there before we really move to the upside of things. So You do have your MACD, which has crossed your indicator line on the bottom side of things. Your daily is still looking at red money flow, but you've got your prime oscillator nice and green and continuing to move to the upside. If you zoom it on in here, take a look at that 4 hour. You're getting a bit of some topping signals here on your 4 hour, but your money flow is going from red to a bit of green here. So definitely looking for that money flow to kind of continue things and negate some of these overbought signals and kind of see where that reversal signals kind of plays out. Bubble guts, he's speaking with a bit of tension. Hey, leave me alone. Leave me alone. I wasn't expecting the coffee to do me like this. It was so good though. He is reading, but his brain isn't thinking. Oh God, you guys are too much sometimes. So if you zoom it on in and just a little bit more, take a look at that hourly. You do have that money flow, which is sitting nice and green on that hourly. Definitely seeing a bit of some topping signals here, but really want to wait and see that second reversal signal, especially as we're getting the curvature on the prime oscillator, which is looking to kind of move back to the upside for a second. You've got plenty of width between your MACD line and your indicator line, so definitely plenty of room to run unless you really see that money flow stick from green to red, and it's going to need to be some harsh outflows on that. So definitely got some potential to break above this fair value gap and above that $211 and kind of falter before we really get above the 236 here. I do think we see some resistance here at about 220 to the 222 range, where we saw multiple rejections off of those prices on the way to the downside. So plenty of room to go to the upside, and before we really see some resistance on things, kind of bodes with the rest of what we might see in the market today. You do have plenty of divergences stacking up here on the 15-minute. Your money flow is waffling back and forth from inflows to outflows. Your MACDs kind of at that point where it needs to make a decision here. It is getting a little bit of width from your indicator line, but it has some nice curvature the same way that your prime oscillator does. So a lot of these downside pressures are being negated, and with the money flow being so green on the hourly and looking to go either way here on the 15-minute and the 4 hour, there's plenty of room to run. Just waiting to see how we act at this local area for the fair value gap, that $211 mark, to kind of see if it's resistance or support. So I didn't see any other requests there, but Lunar Beach is saying have a great day, BC. Thank you to everyone that tuned in today. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. I've been waffling, lol, what a word. I use it quite a bit. It's a fun and interesting word, and I feel like it accurately describes some of the sentiments in the market when you talk about that money flow. It goes green to red to green to red really quickly, and that's quite a bit of waffling for me. But I appreciate every single one of you. Make sure to tune in to the rest of the shows here. Hit the like button if you haven't. It's a free way to support the channel. We've got the morning market report with OC and Piper. That is going to be at 9:30 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. We've got the Trade Academy with Trade Intuition. He's been doing an amazing job. He's got some great TA advice. So if you need that TA advice, if you struggle sometimes to understand what you might be seeing on some of these charts with some of the indicators and the patterns, he does a great job of breaking it all down. We've got the Crypto Nightcap, which is the last day of the week here on Thursday. They go Monday through Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time with TradeFly and FD White. They've been doing an amazing job too. Love the show. So tune into that one as well. We've got Markets After Dark with Lunar Beaches Crypto coming on at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. He does a great job as well. If you like the TA and you're up late, that's the man to go for. He has a lot of fun with his chat as well. So, everyone, wake up because today's going to be a good day.